listening to Being Built. I'm Aaron Davis, the host and founder of Recless Tech, here with Rye Walker, the founder of Tembo.
Hi, how's it going?
Hey, good to meet you.
It's good to see you.
So this isn't your first time around. You're an experienced founder and going at it again, right?
Yeah, when I said good to see you, just now, I never say good to meet you
Because you never know.
because I almost have,
Right.
like a good chance I did. So I always just say good to see you.
I like that. I like that. I tend to remember people's faces and I forget how I know them. So I accidentally do this good to see you again or whatever when it's out of place.
Yeah, I can't say again because that's not for sure either. But
It zooms too much, doesn't it?
yeah, I know. So it's funny. Like I don't know when I learned that, probably 20 years ago, and I just it's just a natural thing.
That's a great tactic.
Yeah.
To not be offensive.
Yeah.
That's the safe way to be respectful. Of
I mean, I usually can tell. I'm like, I can get a percentage in my head, like 60% chance I know this person.
Right.
I just see but it's never 100%,
Yeah.
And so I just can never be for sure,
Well, I don't think we have met before, but before today. But I did meet Tim, your colleague, Tim Metzner.
Oh, yeah.
Former colleague, or whatever, partner.
New partner in Fireroad. We're doing a new venture firm, I guess, best way to describe it. So yeah, I'm doing two things, right now. I mean, we're all doing more than one thing, aren't we? Yeah.
That's right. That's
The
right.
question is, does it have a brand associated with it?
That's right. That's right. I had a friend of he had been a guest on the show a while back. Also another founder who likes to remind me that companies don't really exist. It's actually just people that agree on a logo and where the profits are going.
Yeah.
Right? But it's a company is really just a bunch of people, right?
Yeah, it really is just a team, little squad.
Yeah.
I think companies would be better. I think startups at least would be better off if we use like the movie production methodology. If a movie's happening, right? Like it gets its money, right?
Okay.
I don't know, $50 million budget to make a movie, and there's people who are managing the budget, finding the talent. It could be a multi-year process, and then it ends, and then you do the next thing, and like most of the time, the people that are involved in the production of the company are wrong for the next stage.
Interesting.
Some
Merchandising and all the
just
spin-offs or whatever.
No, I'm just thinking once the people who are really good at the beginning of a company are not very good 3 or 4 years in, and you're trying to fit square pegs into round holes all the time. It would just be kind of cool if the startup crew, if it was just like, hey, yeah. So yeah, I'm kind of, the two analogies, but I just think that it's kind of weird. Like there's people that are still in Astronomer, my previous company, that are perfect fits for Tembo, but they have equity there. They're like bound contractually to not, I can't even talk to them. I just think about how weird that would be if the movie world was that way.
Right.
And people can be working on 2 movies, 3 movies at the same time, in that world. And there's no shame in that. In fact, it's like celebrated in a way, like you're successful.
Sure.
If you got 3 new movies coming out in 2024, it means you're a good actor. Right. But here it's like, I just think that the employment model and tech startups is kind of broken, it's a bad fit, but, you'd have to have agents and all this stuff. And maybe you've thought of this too. I've actually thought take the top open source software developers. There are people that are just worth whatever they're willing. I've made these, I've hired some developers. I'm like, tell me how much you need to make and I'll pay it to you because you're that valuable to us. Yeah. And just being real open about it. And, and they might be like, well, I'll join, but I also have to be allowed to do X, Y, and Z. And you're like, sure.
Yeah.
And I'm like, these people should have agents, because it sucks that they're self-representing in this situation.
Right.
They could probably get a lot more,
Yeah, true.
and then an agent could make some money off of it too. And why are software developers, why don't they have agents? But some of them probably make a lot more. I don't know what the average actor makes, but
right.
Software engineers, you're seeing it, I'm sure too. We're recruiting senior front-end engineers right now, 180, 190,
they're right
200. Yeah, that's a lot of money, man.
It's a tremendous amount of money.
Plus equity, these are essentially, if you think about it, it's like a 2 or 3 year relationship. It's $1 million contract that they're self-negotiating,
Right. But, a big part of what we do is somewhat of an agent relationship. It's certainly not like it is putting a movie together.
Right.
But essentially advocating for and representing somebody's worth in the acquisition of a job. I think what would be different and what would be cool is if it didn't have to be a job, right? It could be an assignment, right?
Should be a project that, again, like if a movie is shooting, maybe they shoot for a certain amount of time and then maybe they're off for a couple of weeks. And I just think, I don't know how it could work, but I just think, I don't know if it's, my life's probably too short to see it happen, but right. if I was going to, I don't know, I've been thinking about it though. It's just the startup trying to sign someone on for 4 years worth of vesting is wrong for everybody.
For something that's really high impact for 18 to 36 months, right?
Yes. And they're probably going to leave options on the table if they leave. I mean, they will if they leave early. And if they don't leave early, they're probably unhappy that they had to stick around for 4 whole years, Yeah.
We could spend this entire hour talking about that. Could we build that business instead? I like that idea a lot.
Yeah, I know.
And I don't think we invented it just now. There are people out there doing elements of that. But what's new to it because I ran a consulting shop where we were paid to build software product for others, but that's the organization owns it. They're not the agent, right? The organization owns it, and you still have to employ those folks, right?
I just think if some of these people, I need them. I really need, let's say I need a front end engineer real bad. And they said to me like, hey, I get that your standard is a 4-year vesting but I'll take, I want 2-year vesting or 3-year vesting. Like, I'm not going to automatically say no to that.
Right.
I think it's smart. I would probably say, maybe I don't need you for more than 2 years, Anyway, people stick around. I don't know what the average tenure is for a
developer 2 years.
Is 2. Yeah. I mean, that's what the contract should be then, I think.
Yeah.
You can always do more stock options, re-up it, if they're right for the next phase, but they're not. They're almost not for sure. If they're right for the first phase, they're almost for sure not right for the next phase.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I could do a deep dive on that.
Yeah,
that's a little bit of the pairing of my background, consulting world and direct executive search world. But essentially working for the talent, essentially, not the other way around, where they're on your payroll or you're trying to get them full-time employed long-term, keep them. I think a lot of times, that the model is set up so that person's vested in the success of the organization.
Yeah.
But when the population is generally vested in their product working well, which I think the engineer population generally thinks that way.
Yeah.
They tend to be a little biased toward quality and well
I think everybody, again, I always go back to the Hollywood model. Like if you're an actor and you're in a movie and, if it's, even if you had a small part, didn't make much money, as long as it was a successful movie, you get street cred for that, I did this little tiny part in this big giant, thing. So I just feel like everyone's going to always want their company or product to be as good as possible. It doesn't matter if they're in the money for it. They just, it's good for their reputation to have been part of that.
That's right.
Genesis.
Part of their reel.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So think about it. I've got this big database of, all the open source. So I do open source companies. I don't know if you know too much about open source.
Barely. But
I mean, the idea,
I know what it is.
Just when you're building a product right now, you could make it completely proprietary, think like Salesforce. I can't run my own copy of Salesforce, right? But there's a whole class of new companies. You can call them open source. You can call them open core. Open core just means that the middle of our company, the most important IP is actually completely open sourced. Right. And I may have some other stuff around the core of the product that are not open source, but like if there's a CMS company called, content management called Payload. And if we wanted to, we could sit over here and like spin up a payload server, whole system using their software without them involved in any way, for free with their open source product. What you're going to find is like, well, it kind of sucks that I now have to run this thing and take care of it. They have a commercial product, same thing, like WordPress would have. Now WordPress is also open source, but bottom line is like companies will pay for I'm way off a tangent here, but companies will pay for support on an open source project if it's important to their company's success.
Okay.
If it's like an important.
So there's your revenue model or
Yeah.
whatever's on the support.
Yeah, and like I said, you don't open source all the product. You just open source like a core internal component, which again creates some friction on using it, which causes people to want to do that. But bottom line is like, I built a database of like, 1 million open source developers, and these are also closed source. I mean, these are just developers in general. Got all their email addresses, and I was thinking like, yeah, I mean, really, you could ask them, okay, if we reached out to each one, which they won't respond if you did. So this is another problem with developers, as I'm sure you know.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, you could be like, hey, I've got the most amazing opportunity for you, and just silence, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, if you could get them to respond and say, how much are you making? You could basically index them based on their. You could basically figure out who's underpaid, and then just say, look, I'm a software development agent effectively, and you're making, $80K, $80K, you should be making $140K. Would you like for me to help you get there, and just work for them, Now, again, employers are going to find that weird. Everyone's going to find that weird, but I mean, like, so what?
Yeah,
change is resisted,
Yeah, you're really kind of hitting a button for me, because when I started the original version of Reckless Tech, it was all about building it for the talent, and so I was trying to essentially get the talent to tap their friend and then pay them the referral fee to get them to respond, right?
Yeah.
And it was more about getting them engaged in the connecting, and it was a way to monetize their engagement and finding the best opportunities, right?
Yeah.
So I like the idea of kind of building a marketplace for talent that's focused on the talent getting all theirs, right?
Yeah, and why not just go for the very, very best? Like, I imagine in Hollywood, the first agents probably served the best actors, right? Don't you think? Like, it probably was like top down.
Yeah, and everybody else is begging for the agent's attention.
Yeah, right.
And Harrison Ford can have his pick.
Yeah,
right? They're all begging for his attention. Right?
So I feel like, that's where the money is, obviously at the top of the game. So, like, who are the top 1,000 developers in the world, right? Yeah. And who's serving, who's their agent? Like, they could, I mean, seriously, if they had an agent with a good negotiator, like they could.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of them are already probably very rich.
Well, yeah, the Google and the Amazons are gobbling them up and overpaying them.
Yeah,
or whatever
but still,
else. But
even all that being said, like, you could, a good agent should be able to help them get even more.
True.
Right? Like, they should be able to have, hey, guess what? I don't work full time for anybody anymore. I'm on 10 projects. Everyone's paying me a quarter what they used to pay me, but now I've got 10. So that's X divided by 4 times 10, which is like 2.5 times more money, right?
True.
So anyway, obviously I've thought a little bit about this, but I don't have time for another company.
Are you sure?
We can keep talking about it. I'm sure I have notes around this, but yeah, that's one of the challenges. Like, I had success with Astronomer. I was able to sell a lot of my shares in secondary. So now I have money and I have ideas and I'm 50, right? So I have so many years left. What to do? Right, you
have to pick your favorites, right?
I mean, you
can't drive on every road.
Can't do everything. That's basically like going, psycho to just suddenly be like, oh, I'm starting 17 companies. Well, but I'm starting a couple, Right. That's already pretty frowned upon, by people who advise you on such things.
Sure. It depends on who you're beholden to, I guess. Right?
Nobody,
venture capital organization or whatever, they're not going to allow you to do 3 different things at once if they're funding you.
Well,
they're going to have some opinions about it.
They may have some opinions, but at least my investor in Tembo understands my situation and wanted me despite that situation, like the fact that, once you have success, like you have distractions, I'm building a house, like I said to you earlier, like
project.
Yeah. I mean, there's, founders are always asking me for advice. So I meet with them, I've tried to figure out ways to like consolidate them into like anyone in Cincinnati. Like I say, here's an hour and a half once a month. If you want to chat with me, come talk to me and all the other founders. And we just kind of do it as a little group exercise, but I'm able to then squish all that, into a hour and a half, per month cost. Right. But, I love talking to them, but if you just like, make yourself available to anybody, you don't have any time,
you wouldn't be able to build stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You can't. So, I think like finding great people, teaming up with people that are self-sufficient and really want to win, do what you've done. Like that's to me the key, so I've got some just really great team members. And ideally, if you're a CEO of something, and you've hired those kind of people, you can play golf and
you can step away.
Yeah. And things get better, just, not perfectly. You still have to come in and help corral the cats every once in a while, because nobody, like the natural state of any system is chaos, so you have to create order every once in a while, but not too much, a little bit of chaos is good. So,
yeah. And if you're working with other leaders who also are inclined and capable of gathering some sense of order, then you don't even have to do that as much. But what do you find to be the most unnerving part about kind of equipping and building up leaders to operate in your absence?
Well, unnerving. I mean, I know they're going to make mistakes. They know they're going to make mistakes, and it sucks. But I always talk about failure is a prerequisite of success. So I mean, I have a co-op that just joined, and like I gave him a really hard job that I knew he would have to. He was actually a co-op for me in the spring. He's like a second year computer science student at University of Cincinnati. Gave him easy stuff last co-op. This time I'm like, I'm gonna treat you like an adult, I'm gonna give you a hard job. And I knew it would take him 5 tries to get it right, and I told him this up front, it's like, hey, this is hard, and I'm gonna treat you as if you're a regular employee, and I need this work done quickly too. I mean, it's like, this is the real world, right? Like,
right.
I'm going to allow you to fail, but I also want it right now. And it's actually important for the company. It's not just like a work for the heck of it. And so, yeah, I'm sure he's feeling a lot of stress around it, and he has failed 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 times now on it. He's not quite gotten the job done. Probably have a message on Slack from him right now. But like, just accept the fact that failure is a prerequisite. Well, I think it was like, who was it? Kubrick, apparently like, Kubrick, the movie maker, again, I guess talking about movies. Yeah. Director, would often do like 30 takes,
Interesting.
And just like, why? Because he saw something wrong. He had to have seen something wrong in there. He saw a mistake. So he's like making all these mistakes. He's making the mistakes because he's the one directing it and all this. And like, if he's, it's like, it's routine for him to make 29 mistakes before he gets it right.
And if somebody as good as Kubrick
at
making a movie has to do it 30 times to get it right, then what's that say for the rest of us when it comes to designing an email template or putting a table together?
If you didn't get it wrong a couple times first, you probably didn't, it wasn't ambition. Like you should have delegated to somebody else, so I just think like, failure is the success state, I just kind of flip my head around on it and allow everyone to be, because that's the reality too. Like you can hope, I don't know, I guess some CEOs probably think like, oh, I want everyone to crush it all the time, and you're just going to be continually disappointed and angry and yelling at people, So for me, it's like, I just expect everyone's going to be constantly failing. We're a brand new company, man, new product, everything's broken. Like the default state of a new company is everything's broken. It kind of feels like pristine in the sense that it's a new little, orb of light, a new new company. But the way I look at it is, if you were going to give yourself a scorecard in all areas that you would score, say, a big company, Walmart, it depends. Just like take your publicly traded alternative to whatever you're doing, like you're straight Fs and everything.
Right.
Your scorecard is
not
like,
profitable. The customer's not yet. It's all the metrics are off. Yeah.
Everything's Fs, and like, just got to move everything to D, move everything to C. Maybe someday you get to the Bs and As. So
yeah, that's a really good way to look at it.
Yeah. It's the nice way, and this is true of all companies too. So it's not like just your company is shitty. Everyone's company is shitty when it's young.
It's the natural state of starting a company.
Yeah.
It's like any investment too. I think I was talking to I'm trying to remember who it was, my son maybe, about investing. In every investment you initially lose. You put $20,000 into a stock or something, you've lost $20,000. You no longer have that money.
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
in somebody else's position to hopefully move or improve.
That's the way my wife sees all of it. She's investing too. She's like, wait, what do you just
Well, no, you hope you get more though.
I know. I'm like, it's not gone. I didn't spend it. It's not like I just bought like a big $50,000 dinner, you know, we bought $50,000 worth of stock, you know, and like it should
improve, right?
But it may not.
Right. Yeah. But you know, initially, you're just without that $50,000, right?
Yeah.
So you've lost it for that moment at least.
Yeah.
And that's the natural state of anything that you're building or improving, I guess, is to lose first.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was thinking of a baby when you were talking, like you think your idea is brilliant, it's great, and it's perfect until you mess it up. But when you actually measure like what it's capable of, they're pretty worthless.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
they don't accomplish anything, right?
No,
they're just a great idea that looks good, sounds good, feels cool, but
it's kind of a sobering. It's like why are we starting companies? When you think about it that way, it's kind of a depressing way to think about it. You know, that you just have this thing that's going to be shitty for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like, do I really want to go through the journey of converting it, you know, upgrading it over and over, all these areas? So that's like, for me, you know, the first 6 months of Tembo, the new company, we were just building product, doing engineering, you know, no go-to-market, team, processes, or anything. And we finally got the team and the progress on the product good enough by the end of July that I realized, okay, I should, that's humming. Like it's not an F anymore. It's, you know, it's C or B, you know, for our stage.
People would enjoy using that, right?
Yeah, no, for our stage, like that side was overperforming, you know, over indexing. And now I look over at go to market and that's still an F, you know, straight F across, like no marketing plan, efforts, or anything. So as a CEO, I'm like, okay, this is fun over here. We got it all humming. And now I got to just like, it's like a different project. Okay, now go to market. This is like marketing, sales, all this kind of stuff. I'm just like, it's kind of depressing to start again, but that's just the reality in tech startups. Now, a lot of people, depending on what type of founder you are, they're doing it all. They're raising both sides at the same time. But we had the luxury because we raised $6.5 million to just build for a while.
Yeah. It certainly makes go to market easier when you've got something that
you got
not
something.
Theoretical, but you've actually got something built.
But you really need to jump over to that side. You know, I felt, I wanted to do the jump even earlier. It was like, you know, the target was like end of June. Let's have the product to the point that I can jump over, but it just took a little longer, as it always does. And but I've hired a first person over there, looking at some more, and you know,
marketing person, or
I call them just GTM. I go to market. At the early stage in a tech startup, I think the first hire should be like I call it like a growth hacker, you know, just basically a young person who is just willing to try lots of different things. Like, you know, we're a database company and I've got this young guy on the team who wants to try to market us on TikTok. I'm like, I'm not sure it's going to work, but
why not try it?
Why not try it? You know, like, I mean, he's going to learn something. We're going to learn something. It could work. Everything he's doing to try to get it to TikTok can also be applied to YouTube, you know? So it's like, in fact, he's going to be putting stuff on YouTube while he's trying. So even if you have someone who's trying some like outlandish strategy, I'm a big fan of like, let them try, you know? I want to be the boss that's like, yes, try it, you know? Because I just think like good things come from that. He's going to learn something, and it's not like all the stuff he's doing we could take the same content that he tried to use there and apply it elsewhere.
Yeah, it's not completely throwaway, right?
No, not at all.
You're trying a channel. Does it work on channel 8, or should we go to channel 12?
Right. We have the same content. We can replay it over there, you know?
Yeah.
I think like Twitter is a better venue, but he's not really on Twitter. And, you know, again, like not many 20-something people are, you know, it's kind of like it's an older platform now. So I think it's interesting. Like, you know, like our developers on TikTok, like I think all people age 20-ish, you know, are. So I think like, it could work. We'll see.
I've found at times you choose the vehicle you want to drive in, and there are times when you choose the driver, or you optimize for the driver, right?
Yeah.
So if you've got somebody who says, I know this space, okay, try that space then, because they know that space, right?
Yeah, and this is like all part of me. Like, if someone's trying their own idea, they have responsibility for it. You know, this is the whole idea of like getting buy-in. You know, a management team, you know, creates a strategic plan. Then you have this big meeting with the whole company and try to, you know, Jedi mind trick everyone into thinking it was their plan, you know, so that they own it, so that they'll really own it. But people see what's happening there. They knew that they didn't really have much input. So I love the idea of like, someone has conviction and they want to try it and now they own it. Like, I don't have to babysit that thing. I can't even help, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'm trying to hire a head of GTM. And I told this person, you know, you can own the entire thing. Like, you can build the sales team out. I said, the problem I have with most companies like ours is that, you know, it's like they hire a couple of these, I call them sales bros, you know, they're just like, guys that just they're loud. And you know,
they're the 90s salesy persona.
Yeah. And they're aggressive and they're successful, you know, historically, but I'm just like, she's female. And I'm just like, I would love for whoever we hire in sales to have to report to you, a young woman, you know, like I just love that, like,
just for the challenge, the humility factor of it.
Well, not just that, but I just don't think she's going to build a sales bro team. You know, I don't know what she'll do, but I think it's bad. I think devs hate talking to those guys too. I mean, again, I'm being it's like okay to be, you know, prejudiced against white guys now. So yeah. By the way, I have this idea for a podcast called Canceled, where someone just comes on. Yeah, they come on and you're like, what?
You can provoke them to say horrible things.
No, just like they know they're going to get canceled if they say his thing. So it's just like, let's just go ahead and do it. Let's just look at you. So I'm basically on that right now.
I'm a T-ball pitcher, man. We're not trying to get 1,000, you know.
No, I know. I'm kidding. But
100,000 likes or whatever. But I like the idea. Maybe one day when I'm more famous.
Yeah.
We'll get canceled out here.
No, it's just like where you bring people on just so that they can self-cancel themselves and just say the thing that they shouldn't say. And
might actually get people being honest a little bit.
I know. It would be, anyway.
Well, to your point, your head was going toward the discriminating thing, and discrimination is a great thing. Obviously, there's a few forms in which it takes an ugly head, but obviously we should discern and make judgments about who we want in and who we want out.
Yeah, the word discriminate should not be a bad word.
No, it's not. We'll use different words just because it's easier and it doesn't create confusion. But that's what you're talking about. Do I want the sales bro, that persona,
right,
of the person who's kind of the atypical kind of aggressive communicator, the assertive, everything's great, always controlling the conversation, whatever else.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting you brought that up, because I was just having a conversation with somebody I know about they're pursuing a sales job, and they're not that persona. They're more of the relationship, slow credibility building, probably more of like selling to a couple hundred people. Salesperson that's deep relationship sales, relationship builder. And that would be the worst kind of persona for that hire, right? Because that's a place where you really have to trust first, and then maybe you'll get some listening done.
Yeah.
But that persona that you're talking about doesn't wait for. They're not a high empathy persona. In fact, it's the exact opposite. They're very resilient to the no, to being told no.
Right.
So that persona has thrived well in a context in which they're expected to be shut down and rejected, and it doesn't demoralize them.
Yeah.
So they actually have very low empathy, and they're not paying attention to talking over people and whatever else.
And I think like what happens is if the leadership team is if it's a sales bro, VP, and if the CE is also kind of really a sales bro, like the permission to up the volume is implicit, like it's like that whole side of I don't want the GTM side of our business to overpower the product side. I want like respect for the product, respect for the engineers to be everywhere, like throughout the entire company. Respect for engineer is like, I would say like a core principle of the company. Like we're building for engineers. I want to respect our internal engineers. Obviously our customers are also engineers, so if you have this, I mean, you have to have some level of confidence and everything else to to make sales, but we don't have to let it get overheated, which I think happens in a lot of companies, and
True.
and I've seen it happen, and I just think like I'll just say the company that I just created, like, I had conversation with a sales rep who had just joined. I'm a co-founder, and I'm like, hey, what's your strategy for Legos? I don't need to tell you that. I said, I'm the founder. What do you do? Like, why won't you tell me your strategy, dude? Like, I just met you and you're going to act like you don't need to tell me something. Like,
but it was just too arrogant, right?
Yeah. It's just very disrespectful, know? And I'm just like, I don't like this guy.
Yeah. When you lack that measure of empathy, maybe it lends a little bit to your tenacity and your ability to kind of push and keep going and keep grinding through rejection, whatever else. And I think that's why you end up with that. But, if you lose some of that, then maybe you have a high empathy, respectful person who's really engaged. You go too far the other way, then you could potentially risk somebody who's not assertive enough or not present enough, not loud enough.
Yeah. If they're like mercenaries, like a mercenary, soldier would probably be good to have if you really want to win this little conflict.
Yeah.
But bad for the culture. Do you want to have the most aggressive possible mercenary on your team? And like, not long term. Maybe for that moment, you could envision why it would be good. But again, these people are being hired with 4-year stock vestings. They're again, like those people too probably should have a shorter time span as well. And I think, again, I don't know if you do salespeople as well, but I bet you
we get into it. Yeah.
Their tenure is probably even shorter than developers.
Yeah, it varies. The average is similar, but the span is different. Yeah. So like developers, there are almost none who spend 20 years somewhere, right? Yeah. So the average is small, and so is the range.
Yeah.
But salespeople, the range.
Well,
I'm
thinking
wider.
In tech startups too. In tech startups, I mean, people you hire the standard practice in tech startups. If you're hiring some sales reps, like hire 4 if you want to keep 2.
Yeah.
It's like what other jobs do we do that in?
I don't like that.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like it's a little careless and unethical to just kind of throw bodies at something, because those folks are, they have kids to feed and everything too. And so they're making career choices, and it's also high risk for the organization. Like you're going to put a bunch of time and attention and have your customers paying attention to somebody. And then you lose half of those conversations you start to somebody who doesn't bring the credibility or the success.
Yeah. But I don't know what the better option is, but
the better option is you hire somebody is going to be successful, and that's hard to do.
Yeah. I think, again, we could get into all this, but I'm very into tech startups, venture-backed tech startups, and the CEO will make a promise to the investors that, all right, this year we're going to just kind of get the product right. Next year we're going to grow here, and the next year we're going to do that, right? Yeah. And in order to do those year 2, year 3 things, you have to hire a certain number of reps that are productive.
That have to produce this revenue, this volume of revenue.
Like the only way it scales up is with humans doing that work, and they just kind of get behind the 8 ball and they just start
slinging bodies and
you have cash. You have a big pile of cash, and you have this chart you need to make, and so you start just throwing the cash at trying to make the chart. And I just think, again, that's part of the problem too. Is like, don't do that. I know it's hard to get the money if you don't have the chart. The promise, but promise less and just deal with the reality and not have everyone frantic, in the company.
Yeah, you make a really good point too at the other risk that's introduced there at the cost of the culture, particularly when you're a dev organization building a dev tool. The product team and the go-to-market team should really gel in an organization that's selling to a dev community, right? They shouldn't have that classic like us and them.
No,
you oversold, overpromised. There should be a real
Well, that chart, that promise to the venture cap to the VC is actually drives that. Like all of a sudden, it'll happen slowly. It was in the beginning, it's like, let's build something customers love. Well, we got 10 people who love us. Great. Now it's like, okay, we're behind on the revenue numbers. Like here, everyone needs to help get this revenue. Everyone needs to help. It's like you start to get frantic, and like developers are just feeling like, okay, how do I help get the revenue? How do I help get the revenue? Like it's I guess I mean I think there's some good to that, but in general, it's like you've pulled them away from. I think there should be sort of a separation between those teams, but they should definitely gel and they should definitely have respect for each other.
Yeah, that's what I think it comes down to.
Yeah.
I mean, if your product team doesn't like your marketing and sales team, then your customers aren't either. They're one and the same, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. That's a great point. Yeah, we can all detect it. Yeah.
Yeah, you should put them in the sniff test in the interview process, right? That the product
What
team.
the devs,
hell yeah.
approve the sales reps.
That's who they're going to be selling to.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
that's a good point.
If this guy irks me, he's going to irk somebody else, right? If you're doing individual one-to-one selling.
So I say like that old school VP of sales will never give up that control. They're looking for killers. They're looking for. Well, again, they've got a problem. Like they're going to get fired if the chart doesn't happen. And that's just the way it goes too. So.
Yeah,
I don't know. I
think
that's
a tough balance.
Yeah, I know. I agree. I think then to say, oh, actually, the devs are going to decide who your sales reps are. They're like, I'm out.
Right. Are they going to hit quota or not? Yeah. How far are you from beginning to develop like a sales operation like a?
I would say once we raise our Series A, which I hope is later this year or early next year, then I will hire a few reps.
Yeah. At this point, it's more the marketing collateral, the messaging, and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's also just like social media, like creating content and posting it and getting eyeballs. I always say, like in a dev, if you're a company and you're marketing to developers, the same way you can't email a developer and say, "Hey, I've got a great job opportunity for you," I can't email a developer and say, "Hey, I've got a great product that you should look at." Like they're just like. They
have stuff to do.
Yeah, like no, stop emailing me. I'm going to report you as spam. So you have to. I call it like you have to peacock. You have to like have great content, get it on social media, like make it look like there's FOMO. Like you're missing out on a product that you should know about, and they have to come to you first, and then only then can you interact with them. But the persona that talks to them has to feel like we call it dev advocate. So we really want a developer advocate to be the one communicating with these early users, not a salesperson. So like getting that developer advocate team built is actually important. They post the content and they respond and kind of communicate with early users. So,
and that's got to be in context, meaningful content that a dev community is going to understand and appreciate and be impressed with.
Yeah. I mean, I really don't want to spend very much money at all on media, so yes, it's marketing, but it's what we would have called guerrilla marketing, 20 years ago. Our marketing plan is content and communication with the people that come to our product and see if we can help them accomplish one of their goals.
You said you were starting a podcast too. Is that related to Tembo?
Yeah, it's related to Tembo. It's really just it's a technical podcast around Postgres extensions, which is very specific, but there's it's called hacking Postgres. So the idea here is Postgres as a technical open source project is very extendable, and so a lot of people have done this. Like there are hundreds of developers who've extended Postgres to do something more than what it originally was intended to do, and I just think it's a marketing strategy on one hand, but it's also education for me. Like I get to really get to know everything that's going on inside of this core for our business. And it's also good for them. I think it's like celebratory. Like I think just celebrates the effort that they put forth and let them know that someone appreciates the fact that they did this. Maybe no one's ever said thank you on for what they worked on. So I think that there's multiple opportunities. It's really put some good vibes into the world and not really a real direct target outcome. But as long as I'm learning something, that's a good. Yeah. I mean, the way I look at it is it's good for the company. Everyone in the company will probably listen to the episode. So it's just it's basically training for our team in a sense.
That's right. I mean, I do a podcast for a lot of the same reasons, right? Like it's the community I'm connecting with. And so can we build an asset and acknowledgement for founders and leaders who are out there building cool stuff? Same thing you're doing for the Postgres community, right? Yeah. It's like we want to acknowledge them, make sure that they're being seen and appreciated, and and then also learn stuff along the way. I've learned listening to you just now.
Yeah.
For the last 30 minutes, I've learned a few things about startups. So.
Yeah. Well, I think it's great too. Yeah. And it's going to be, stuff even beyond the core, like it's hacking Postgres, but I'll learn all kinds of other things. Could just be like, oh, here's a cool tool. Maybe here's a cool movie, whatever it may be. So, I do enjoy talking to people in the moment for sure. Right in front of it, anxiety and just like, I'd say I'm more of an introvert type, but again, I just think like all introverts should do a podcast.
Dude, I'm an introvert. I've been pretending to be an extrovert for the last 20 years because I needed to be able to make a living.
Yeah.
So I've learned all these extroverted skills, but it's work. I mean, honestly, when I walk into a room, a networking event with 30 people, that's exhausting to me.
Yeah.
I love seeing, and I immediately cling to the 2 or 3 people I know, and I want to hide there. Right? Yeah. That's a normal state for me it's stay in the familiar. I
wonder if everyone's that way. Like, I think that most people are that way. Most people, wouldn't. That's being vulnerable to say that. Most people don't have. I mean, you have to have had some success, I think, to be able to give, to present as vulnerable. And so you've had some success in your life, so have I. But I'm the same way. Like my wife will look at me like, what are you doing? Like, we'll come to a party and everyone's like over there and they're talking too loud. And I'm just like, you know what? I'd love to just talk to somebody over here. So I'll go over there by myself and just like hope someone will walk up. Cause like, it's better for me to be, not in the center of the clamor.
Dude, the world is shifting your direction. I'll tell you why. Yeah. What you just described about your customers' buying experience, they don't want to be solicited. They want the inbound experience, right?
Yep.
The world is shifting from being run by extroverts to being run by us.
Boom, yeah,
people who will show up when that person has a calm and an energy and an intelligence that you want to affiliate with. Yeah. And you're like, okay, that's the space in the room that I want to be in. And then you have the conversation that's genuine, not the one that's imposed upon you. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
So the cocktail party scenario you just described is modern marketing. It's modern sales.
Like, you're right.
People want to know something about you. They want to have initiated the conversation or at least said, I'm interested in this problem.
That's right. And I want them to be interested in me. Like maybe someone's like, oh, that's Ryan over there. You should meet him. He's blah, blah, blah. And I want to talk about tech startups at a party, at my country club. And like, or something that I'm interested in, and not just like, oh, Bengals. Oh yeah. Burrow, is he going to be okay? Yay. It's like so empty, a lot of these conversations.
Dude, a lot of times I will end this podcast and then people will end up, they'll post up and we'll have a drink or whatever. I've had plenty of conversations after, and I had one where somebody said, oh, well, what do you do for fun? And I'm like, well, I just did it, man. That's what I do. I've just been talking to you about business for the last hour. We were sitting on the deck and he was saying like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm just talking about business. I'm like, oh, that's my life. Yeah. That's what I enjoy. I love it. And when my kids and I are playing and stuff, we're talking about business, my older kids, we're doing the same thing, right? Yeah. We're talking about the work they're getting into. And for me, it's not about obsessing about work. It's about bringing, there's fun out of it, right? Yeah. There's a joy in like doing those things. But anyway.
Yeah, it's fun. I've got my kids, I've got 2 children now that are age 20 or older. So same deal. And like, I was talking to my daughter about confidence. She's a second year student at UC DAP.
Nice.
Industrial design.
Yep.
Super hard program to get into. Super demanding. Second year, she's kind of like, I love the first year. She loved the first year. Second year, she's like, I'm just like not really feeling it. She's like, I want to be doing this stuff. She wants to do wood. She wants to do, but there's nothing in the program about woodworking or anything like that. It's industrial design.
Okay.
Modern. It's 3D modeling. It's modern materials, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And I told her like, they're not in charge of you. You're allowed to do wood right now if you want to. Like you could even probably go to them and tell them, I don't want to do this stuff. I want to do wood right now, and they'll probably be like, cool, do wood. Yeah. You got to just have the confidence to go and have that conversation with this authority figure and have a clear plan and a clear reason and maybe even a threat like, hey, I'm dropping out unless I can do wood,
Right.
And they might be like, cool, do wood, but like, and I was just having this conversation with her about confidence, and my wife was just like, why are you saying she lacks confidence? I'm like, I'm not, everyone lacks, every student lacks confidence.
Sure. Every human does, I think, in some context.
Yeah. Like, like, this is not a slam on her in any way. It's just like, this is just the reality is like any employee has, if they're going to go talk to the CEO about an idea of theirs, it's natural to lack confidence in that conversation. And the people who get their thing blessed by a CEO came in with a confident plan, clear, confident.
Yeah.
And so I just think like, I talk about confidence all the time with founders trying to do fundraising, like the worst thing you can do is go to a VC and have a lack of confidence.
Yeah.
You're dead. You're done. Like they smell it. And it's kind of like, okay, well, I do lack confidence. I'm like, I'm not saying like pretend like you don't have confidence. I'm like, get confidence. It's not about faking things. It's like why are you pitching an idea that you don't even have confidence in? Like, keep working on it. Like, I don't know. It's like, so I'm not telling her like to pretend. I'm not telling any founders to pretend. I'm saying like I've reached the point now where things I'm doing, I have confidence in, and I just like make confident decisions. When I'm making a decision, it's with confidence. And
others from the outside looking in might think that there's something innate in you that does that, but you've gotten to that point because I'm speculating. You tell me if I'm wrong, but you've gotten to that point because preparation is what brings confidence in a situation. And you've had a career full of situations, problems, challenges that you faced that prepared you to be faced with a new scenario that you can confidently speak to or decide on, right?
Yeah. I mean, I always talked about like in my 20s, this is like before the internet, early 20s, I read like 1,000 books on business. And it's like, I wish I had a list. I wish I would have wrote them all down. Cause I mean, it was legit. Like seriously, I would read a book a week, for a lot of times, listen to a ton of audiobooks. And it's like, that stuff's in there and it's just like all mixed together. It's like an MBA, maybe. Yeah. I dropped out of school after 2 years out of college. So
it's probably better than an MBA, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I have one. There were a couple of classes that were useful.
Well, I read these books.
The certificate's over there in a pile somewhere. Nobody gives a shit about it.
I read the books and then I tried to apply to the small company that I had, so that's like working from first principles around these things. So, I mean, that's obviously a huge asset. I didn't really act confident as much. I mean, there was some of it. It just grew over my career, but I'm saying like, there's not really a threshold that you have to get to have confidence, Like you go to like some of these athletes, Joe Burrow is speaking of the Bengals now. Right. No, I mean, he oozes confidence and he's early 20s. So I'm like I told my daughter, like, you could be there now if you want, if it's like a choice, like it's a choice. I agree that knowledge matters, but like, it's just interesting how if you just choose to be confident about your idea and what you want to do, like it's like executable. If it's fuzzy, if it's like, if it's just a little bit wobbly and you won't go for it.
I think of like, as you're talking about just choosing or whatever, it makes me think about somebody who's planning an event or a party. We had some extended family or whatever. There were 3 couples. They were together after a dinner party. We were having some drinks and we were talking about, we should get the whole extended family, all 50, 60 of us out to a destination vacation. Oh, yeah. This was a couple of years ago. Yeah. And so we're all drinking, so we got fake confidence. But we were excited about the idea enough to say, we're going. You're either in or you're not. Our 3 families are going. Let's see if we can get everybody else to go. Yeah. And I think bringing it to the table like that, we've picked a day, all 3 of us booked. We hope you're available. If you're not, sorry, but you create that like commitment. Yeah. Like I'm confident enough that this is going to be great, that we're going to go regardless. Yeah. What we don't know is are there going to be 15 or 50 people there? Yeah. That's up to you. And I think when you go to that CEO and you pitch, or you go to that customer and you say, we're going to solve this problem. We're going to build this product. We're going to raise this money and do this deal, or we're going to execute this project and change this process. This is how it's going to go. I know it's going to work this way. Are you in or not? Like, what would you do different? Can you help me or not? Yeah. And then it's like, I want to be part of that. Oh, so you're having a party? It's the difference between, I think what you just described is the difference between saying, I was thinking about maybe having a party. Would you be interested if I went? Or I'm having a party in 3 Saturdays. Yeah. You're invited. Yeah. Right. And then you have no guests lined up. No, I know. You say it's going to happen. Right.
Yeah, and I've never had a poker night at my house until a couple years ago. I was like, all right, I want to do it. Here's the day. Like, again, which of my friends would want to come? I invited 24 people to get 7 to show up,
Yeah, I do the same thing here.
Yeah.
We'll do a poker night. It's usually half, like.
Yeah. It was it's such an amazing time with the people that did show up. A lot of them didn't know each other, because to get to 24, I had to like combine my,
your networks,
friend groups. Yeah. And they got to meet each other. A lot of pros to that. Wasn't that hard. Probably it's like the power of alcohol too. Like it's like liquid confidence, right? So I'm sure a lot of great decisions have been made, or a lot of confident decisions have been made under the influence of alcohol.
But you can choose that too, right? Like you don't have to be
drunk,
indulged chemically or whatever in order to say like I can be more confident than I feel. I don't have to follow my feelings. I can have my feelings follow my my conviction, right?
Well, I think of I don't know where you are politically, and I wouldn't ask that, but that's the power of Trump. I think in one way is like. No, this is probably not normally a political podcast here, but
we don't get into a lot of that. But you're making a point. I follow you.
Yeah, dude is like confident. Again, might be wrong most of the time.
Yeah,
but his confidence is a big part of why he's had success.
Yeah, there's something compelling about somebody who's very certain of themselves.
Yeah.
Whether they've got it or they don't. Yeah. And I think when we were talking about salespeople.
Yeah.
That persona or whatever. That's another one of those risks when you have somebody who's humble and respectful and defers and respects others. They also tend to sometimes hesitate and wait for affirmation in ways that somebody who would otherwise just be like, I'm certain.
Yeah.
I have this certain.
That's why I think like we need to have, those assertive salespeople, but they need a manager that is not going to, like I said, amplify to the point where it's unhealthy. And
that's a good control.
Yeah. That's like my thought.
Idea.
That's my hope there, but we'll see. We'll see if she accepts the role,
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Cause it's definitely going to create stress, it's a stressful spot for someone to be in. But again, this is another young 20-something person. I remember I was reminded during this conversation with her, I'm like, I would love to just give you the whole GTM, and see what happens. It's like an experiment. And it reminded me of, I remember hearing a few years ago that like Pepsi had replaced their chairman of the board with like a 27-year-old person,
Interesting.
I'm like that makes sense, like can't really do too much damage from that seat,
True. Right.
I mean, you can do some damage, but like there's adults around the room. Like, I just think it's great. Like again, like a soda brand is like a young person's thing. I think as we get older, we all get smart enough to stop drinking liquid sugar.
Right.
It's generally kids that are doing that. So why not let a young person be the heart and soul of an organization like that? Anyway, I think it's I think marketing has changed tremendously. Like I don't love using playbooks even from 3 or 4 years ago, because I feel like the world of social media has changed tremendously. Twitter changed, tremendously in the past year, so
past few months, right?
Yeah. Even the algorithm is now exposed, and now everyone realizes like, it's not about getting likes and retweets, which is what we thought you probably should go for, but it's about responses, like apparently is what gets your post
shared. The big
shared.
variable. Interesting.
Yeah. Did you know that?
I paid that much attention to it. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that's why a lot of people are asking questions on Twitter now instead of just like posting an opinion.
My editor and he's also kind of does our social media posting and stuff. We're just talking about that, like what to optimize for in our posts and stuff. And what we came to was just make good content that people enjoy. And let the algorithms figure themselves out. And hopefully
that's
they
how
do.
I feel too. Like I'm not going to succumb to becoming a person just posting
variable chaser,
baity questions. Yeah.
Like to get 10 more clicks or 100 more clicks or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, who knows? But yeah, I think it's I just think everything's changing really rapidly. And
I want to get into Tembo. Tell me about that. What's the product do?
It's a database company. So I like to say like what Oracle does, right?
Sure.
And most people are like, oh, I think I do.
Well, every dev knows what it does.
Yeah, I mean, Oracle's an old database. It's been around for I don't know how many, 30 years, maybe more.
Decades. Yeah.
Postgres is an open source alternative to Oracle that's also been around for 26 years.
Okay.
There's probably 5 million deployments of it. It's definitely more popular. It definitely doesn't have as much revenue as Oracle, but it's used as much as Oracle.
Is it?
But it's just kind of invisible. Like if you have a website, that's hosted on WordPress or, like, a site that hosts blogs or whatever. Most likely there's a Postgres database behind it.
Okay.
Or it could be MySQL. There's like two old databases.
Yeah, the open source.
Yeah, open source databases. Like all the cloud providers have commercialized them multiple times, so Postgres is this really old, mature, well-used database that nobody really knows about. And I think that there's an opportunity to build a publicly traded company around it. There's a lot of small companies commercializing it. I would say with limited capital, or some of them are older and they didn't. There's kind of this new generation of venture capital where these mega rounds can happen. And I truly believe like money is like liquid power. Like if you have a bank account with $300 million, you can do some stuff, right? And Astronomer, my previous company, had a bank account with $200+ million in it. I just was like, if we can do the same thing with Postgres, we could build we can easily build $1 billion company. I know, again, talking about confidence, but like, I'm just like, it's easy to get to $1 billion. It might be harder to get to a $10 billion company. That's my attitude about this company. And it's
until you get to $1 billion, right?
Well, no, I mean, I'm just saying like, it's like, I can see it getting to 10, I definitely know. I mean, there's other companies that have commercialized open source software that isn't nearly as adopted, who have made it to $1 billion company. So like, we should clearly be able to do this. And, it's just a matter of execution,
What do you see as the biggest obstacle? What are you concerned about over the next couple of years?
I mean, we're like starting a race last, and there's 100 competitors, literally. Like, I'm not saying like there's a lot. Like, no, there's at least 100 companies commercializing Postgres that are already out of the gate, and we're starting last in the race. So we got to figure out how to get past, every single one to get a sale. That's pretty scary and hard. I mean, you have to do that as a recruiter, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's thousands of recruiters and you got to win against them all. Certainly possible to win through a personal relationship and all kinds of stuff. But,
that's right.
We're doing it as a tech product, where personal relationships don't, so your product has to be really good. The execution has to be really good. And if we get to the point where we can consistently get in the top 5, that could be like, we got no revenue, right? Getting into the top 5 doesn't get you anything in a sale, right?
You need to be in that top 2, 3, or
top 1, in each sale. Like, you have to get to number 1 every time.
Yeah. In that buyer's mind, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Usually there's going to be about, 10 that are the biggest competitors. So I'm obviously focusing on them, but in order to do that, you got to figure out a way to differentiate. And we do have a good way to differentiate, in my opinion. So
what is that? What's the big differentiator?
Most people provide what I call a safe version of Postgres. They've like chopped off all of the dangerous parts, and they basically give customers in a managed part and a managed. Remember I said it's very extensible.
Okay.
So they'll allow like 50 different popular extensions to be used on their managed service. We're going to allow the top 200 out of the box, and we're also going to give you a way that you can bring your own extension. Basically, we're just going to let you run a more dangerous version of Postgres.
Yeah, interesting.
But people are doing it. A lot of people self-host Postgres because their managed provider, all the managed providers don't support a few things that they want to do that's outside of the norm. So yeah, it's kind of I don't know what a good analogy. I need to come up with a great analogy for this, but it's like a lot of customers can fit into these safe use cases, but if there's 5 million companies using, 5 million people using Postgres, if even, 500,000 of them can't use it, that's a pretty big market.
Yeah. So plus, just being able to broaden the ways in which the typical user can engage and use Postgres gives you the opportunity to pull in more users.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think because we allow the widest use case, we should be able to get the weirdos on the edges, but I also think like the normal people in the middle will also
overlap right over them.
Yeah. Wouldn't you prefer to work with flexible, again, it's like, okay, if you want to, I think of restaurants all the time. If there's just one menu item, chicken nuggets, like they're not going to get too many
Right.
customers.
Are you Cane's Chicken or are you Cheesecake Factory?
Yeah.
It has a mile-long menu, right?
Yeah. So we're more like Cheesecake Factory right now.
I don't know if that's the analogy you've been looking for.
Yeah, Cheesecake.
You could do better than that.
I know.
That's the one I came up with on the fly.
I mean, we're trying to, again, because everybody else is just selling chicken nuggets. It's a bunch of.
That makes sense, though. That puts you in a good position to be able to grab a large share of that market. Because as the developer's thinking about their current use cases, maybe those 50 extensions are sufficient. But if they're thinking about the known unknowns or the unknown unknowns, they might want the bigger library.
Yeah, right? and the thing that's happening now is the rise of AI means there's actually a new use case for databases, which is you probably have heard of LLMs, large language. Yeah, so in order to create an enterprise LLM, you have to do some data preparation. So there's sort of there's a new use case that just emerged literally in like the past year. You could use a database to keep track of transactions. That's the traditional use case.
Okay.
You can use it to do analytics. You basically pull data from lots of sources, massage it, and turn it into dashboards. That's like data science or analytics. And then now there's this ML or machine learning AI use case that really, if you're building a product in 2023 or 2024, you pretty much have to provide the raw functionality. You usually have to provide some charts inside of a product for it to be, usually like that. That's the stuff that's like, if I have a tool to keep track of sales activities, like is cool. But if you can, show a chart of what's going on, like that's like the sizzle, the steak is the functionality. Sizzle is this visualization. The new sizzle, sizzle plus is like ML, and it'll predict, what your revenue will be next year based on what's going on, so like you can't really build a product now that doesn't have, you can't raise money
without that feature,
without an AI component. So the world of databases has just become even more complex. We call it the modern data stack. There's there are a lot of products selling specialized databases for all these use cases. There's a lot more than what I just described. There's, let's say, 10 or 20 use cases for databases, and there's every of these categories has a dedicated company. And what we're trying to do with Postgres is say, you can use Postgres for all this stuff because of these extensions. And right now that's true, but it's really messy. Like most people just use Postgres for transactional. And our idea here is like, you can use Postgres to not have to buy all those vendors. And so that's the big differentiator. It requires us to do the Cheesecake Factory, strategy. If you want to cover all the different types of, people looking to eat, you have to have this big giant menu, and you have to do each item really, really well. That's the other thing I think they do really well. So maybe I'm going to adopt that as a standard, because like when you go to Cheesecake Factory and you order a steak and it's not a bad steak,
right? The cheesecake's as good as the burrito, is as good as the right.
Yeah. It's not like they're just doing everything kind of.
They're all pretty good.
Yeah. And it's an easy place to say, hey, let's go there, and everyone's going to find
Everybody's
something.
satisfied. Yeah, exactly. So. It's a large menu of all pretty decent things.
Yeah. So we're doing that, and it's very hard, and it's like we know we're kind of like, because we're not doing the easy thing, we're doing the hard thing for our customer. It's going to be hard for us operationally, but I think that's really the key to a business, is to do something that's really hard for your customer instead of asking them to do it that way.
Tim Metzner and I got to talking about that with Coterie, actually, and that was kind of a hard thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, highly regulated industry and all that. But the beauty of building a castle like that is that your moat comes with it.
Yeah,
right.
That's right.
And so if you can do it really, really well, it's hard. It's also hard for somebody else just to flip it on and take you over, right?
Yeah.
So
that's why all the problems we're having building this product, I almost celebrate them, because I'm like, oh, these are the road bumps. These are the moat, layers of the moat.
That's exactly how I feel when I'm doing a weird search. They're customers looking for the three-eyed cat. Oh, they got to live in the middle of nowhere and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, so nobody's going to steal this from me. There's no way anybody's going to beat me to this. That's going to be really, really difficult. And those get me excited, because it's a little protection, right?
Yeah.
Same is true when you're building the hard thing.
And it's just pretty standard startup advice, do the hard things, like it's just, you do something easy, there's no moat, there's no protection. You're subject to copycats way easier, you know.
True.
So yeah.
Well, before we close up, there's one last question I'd like to kind of end with is we talked a little bit about, your challenge over the next couple of years being the volume of competitors that are engaged in it.
Yep.
And then you did kind of allude to your differentiator, but what's your plan to overcome that challenge as you kind of enter the go-to-market phase?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's to do. I want to do some things inside the Postgres community that others, even our competitors, are not bold enough to do. So I want to basically act as if we're already the number one company. Again, this is that whole confidence conversation once again. Like for example, I mean, again, this is all pretty nerdy, but there are a lot of these open source projects are being put into software foundations. When my company open sources some code and I still kind of control it.
Okay.
I could take it away at any point in time. I could, and this happens late stage that company starts out open source, free for everyone to use. They start growing. They start missing the curve that I just described. Yeah. And one of the strategies is usually it's like a non-developer is at the helm and they say like, well, why are we giving away the freaking core? Stop that. Take it away. Like close it.
Right.
We want to maximize revenue. What the hell? And right. so they do that and all the developers revolt, They
decide to sell rent at the Starbucks table.
Yeah.
We know everybody's there for the space.
That's right.
We're just going to sell the coffee. Oh, why are we giving away the space? That's the most valuable thing. You should pay rent for the table.
So the developers revolt against your company. They actually, this just happened with a company called HashiCorp, where they took away the license and said, hey, there's too many companies competing against us with our own stuff, so we're going to change the license. And immediately the community said, okay, I mean, there's 126 companies and 600 people who signed a manifesto to take this product called Terraform and turn it into an open and take it into a foundation. And basically, because it was open source, like anyone could take it
and secure it as open
at that point. And so now you have Terraform and HashiCorp, a publicly traded company who has got this proprietary version of a product. In a sense, like they forked. They're the ones. They look like the bad guys in a sense because they basically, So it's like, but they did it because of revenue. I guarantee you, like someone.
Yeah, and if they'd have just left the dining room open or the lobby open,
what they should have done is do what the people who are signing this manifesto are doing, which is basically creating a foundation that would forever own this project instead of a company. So anyway, there's all these projects in Postgres are what I call captive open source, meaning some company or person controls a project, and I want to create a foundation that all these important like side projects to Postgres could go to, and then be 100 of them, and anyone, they're basically community owned at that point instead of owned by companies and individuals, and that'll just that's a hard thing to do because like you got to create consensus and a plan and like community organizing and all that, and so I'm working on that right now.
Interesting.
And I feel like if I do that, we'll be there. I already talked to some of the top 10 companies in the space, and they're kind of like in if everyone else is in.
Yeah, you got to create some cult energy.
Yeah, right? Yeah. And so, but if I can get that done, us and these other 8 companies create this foundation. Like we're top 10 now, as far as I'm concerned. That's a way to vault into the top 10. Yeah. And now you only have to get past 10.
Right.
So step one is getting to the top 10, and that's one strategy. There's some other strategies too, but I think that. Big moves like that are big, hard moves like that are, again, like challenging to do, especially as an introvert.
Yeah. No, you got this, man. You're smart.
Yeah, I know.
You got smart people around you.
Yeah, I'm just calling them up, talking to them. There's like 5 guys I got to convince that they think it's good in the core Postgres team, and then we should be able to pull it off.
Jump over that hurdle.
Yep.
That's awesome. All right, cool. We'll be here to support you and cheer you on.
I know.
And then when you hit $1 billion, you can come back on the show.
Oh yeah. Okay.
We'll talk to you again.
$1 billion valuation, by the way. So $1 billion valuation in the tech startup world just means you've got someone to invest at that rate.
People believe it. That's right.
Yeah. So it's not real. It's just,
it's really something though.
Yeah. You got to get public for it to be real. So yeah.
True. Okay, cool. Appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks.
All right, cool.